Have you ever received your salary, looked at your bank account, and for a brief moment felt rich? Only to wonder 2 weeks later where all the money went. You work hard. You wake up early. You sacrifice your comfort. You put in the hours. Yet somehow, every month feels exactly the same. The money comes in. The bills go out. And you're back to waiting for the next paycheck. If that sounds familiar, then this conversation is for you. Because today, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about freedom. We're talking about peace of mind. We're talking about building a future where a single emergency doesn't throw your entire life into chaos. And the truth is, financial freedom isn't reserved for millionaires, celebrities, or people born into wealthy families. It's built through small decisions, simple habits, and consistent actions that compound over time. The sad reality is that most people spend their entire lives earning money without ever learning how money actually works. Think about that for a moment. We spend years in school learning mathematics, history, chemistry, and geography. But nobody sits us down and teaches us how to budget. Nobody teaches us how to save. Nobody teaches us how to invest. Nobody teaches us how to avoid the financial mistakes that keep millions of hardworking people trapped in the same cycle for decades. So we grow up figuring everything out on our own. Sometimes we get lucky. Most times, we learn the hard way. And if you're watching this video today, I want you to know something. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made. It doesn't matter whether you have $10 or $10,000 in your account right now. What matters is that you decide to take control of your financial future. Because one good decision repeated consistently can completely change your life. Today, I want to share 5 personal finance principles that have transformed the lives of countless people around the world. These aren't complicated Wall Street strategies. They're not get-rich-quick schemes. They're simple ideas. But sometimes, simple ideas change everything. And I want you to stay with me until the end because the last principle might be the one that saves you years of financial struggle. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's have an honest conversation about money. Not the glamorous version people show on social media. Not the fake overnight success stories. But the real principles that create lasting wealth and financial peace. Let's begin. What is the hidden cost of living paycheck to paycheck? I remember hearing a story about a man who earned more money than anyone in his family ever had. Growing up, he promised himself that once he got a good job, all his problems would disappear. And eventually, he did get that opportunity. A stable income. A respectable position. More money than he ever imagined earning as a child. But something strange happened. The more he earned, the more he spent. The better his salary became, the more expensive his lifestyle became. He upgraded his phone. Bought a newer car. Moved into a bigger apartment. Started eating at more expensive restaurants. And before long, despite earning more money than ever before, he still found himself living paycheck to paycheck. One unexpected expense could destroy his entire financial plan. One emergency could force him into debt. One bad month could create years of financial stress. The problem wasn't income. The problem was habits. And this is something many people don't realize. Financial freedom isn't just about how much money you make. It's about what you do with the money you make. There are people earning modest incomes who have savings, investments, and peace of mind. At the same time, there are high-income earners drowning in debt and financial anxiety. Because income alone doesn't create wealth. Behavior does. And that's an important distinction. The world constantly tells us that earning more money is the solution to every financial problem. And while increasing your income is certainly important, it's only part of the equation. Without financial discipline, more money often leads to bigger problems. Why? Because human beings naturally adapt to whatever they have. Psychologists call this lifestyle inflation. When your income increases, your expectations increase with it.
The things that once felt luxurious suddenly become necessities. The phone you once dreamed about becomes outdated. The car that once made you proud no longer feels impressive. The apartment that once felt spacious suddenly feels too small. And the cycle continues. You keep running faster, but you remain in the same place. It's like being on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not progressing. And perhaps the greatest cost isn't financial. It's emotional. Living paycheck to paycheck creates constant stress. It steals your peace. It affects your relationships. It impacts your mental health. You begin making decisions out of fear instead of opportunity. You stay in jobs you hate because you can't afford to leave. You avoid taking risks that could improve your future because you don't have a financial cushion. You postpone dreams because survival comes first. That's not freedom. And life is too short to remain trapped in that cycle forever. The good news? There is another way. And it starts with one simple principle that many people ignore. Budgeting. Now, before you click away or roll your eyes, hear me out. Because budgeting has one of the worst reputations in personal finance. People think budgeting means restriction. They think it means giving up everything they enjoy. They imagine spreadsheets, complicated formulas, and a life without fun. But that's not what budgeting really is. A budget isn't a prison. A budget is a plan. And every successful person understands the power of having a plan. Imagine taking a road trip without knowing your destination. It would be chaos. Yet that's exactly how many people manage their money. They earn it. Spend it. Hope for the best. And wonder why they never get ahead. Money without a plan has a way of disappearing. And that's why our first life-changing financial principle is so important. Tip number 1. Create a budget that gives you freedom, not stress. Let me tell you about someone I know. Every month, he earned a decent income. Nothing extraordinary. But enough to live comfortably. Yet by the third week of every month, he was already struggling. He couldn't explain where his money went. He wasn't buying luxury cars. He wasn't taking expensive vacations. He wasn't making outrageous purchases. The money simply disappeared. Sound familiar? One day, out of frustration, he decided to do something he'd avoided for years. He wrote down every single expense. Everything. The morning coffee. The online subscriptions. The random snacks. The impulse purchases. The small amounts of money he assumed didn't matter. And what he discovered shocked him. The problem wasn't one big expense. It was hundreds of tiny decisions made without intention. Money was leaking from places he never paid attention to. And that's what budgeting does. It shines a light on your financial habits. Because you cannot improve what you refuse to measure. Think about athletes. They track their performance. Businesses track their profits. Students track their grades. Investors track their portfolios. Measurement creates awareness. And awareness creates change. The purpose of budgeting isn't to make your life miserable. It's to make your money serve your priorities. That's a huge difference. A budget is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And honestly, that's empowering. Because every dollar you earn represents your time. Your effort. Your energy. Hours of your life that you'll never get back. So shouldn't those dollars be spent intentionally? I think they should. Now, let's make this practical. One of the simplest budgeting methods in the world is called the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your income goes toward necessities. Things like housing, food, transportation, utilities, and basic living expenses. 30% goes toward wants. Entertainment. Dining out. Hobbies. Travel. The things that make life enjoyable. And 20% goes toward savings and investments. Simple. Clear. Effective. Of course, everyone's situation is different. Some people may need to adjust those percentages. The point isn't perfection. The point is awareness. The point is having a plan. Because a plan gives you power. And here's something most people never realize. Budgeting actually gives you permission to enjoy your money. Yes, you heard that correctly. When you've planned for entertainment, vacations, or personal treats, you can spend that money without guilt. Why? Because it's already part of the plan. You're not sabotaging your future. You're simply enjoying what you've intentionally allocated. That's freedom. Real freedom isn't spending without limits. Real freedom is spending with confidence. There's a difference. I know someone who used to fear checking his bank account. Every notification from his banking app created anxiety. Every unexpected expense felt like a disaster. But after learning to budget, something remarkable happened. He became calmer. More confident. More intentional. The money didn't necessarily increase overnight. But his relationship with money completely changed. And sometimes, that's where transformation begins. Not with more income. But with greater awareness. The truth is, money is emotional. It's connected to our fears. Our dreams. Our insecurities. Our ambitions. And if we don't manage those emotions will manage us. Budgeting forces us to confront reality. Not to punish ourselves. But to empower ourselves. Because once you know where you stand, you can begin moving toward where you want to be. And here's a challenge for everyone watching this video. For the next 30 days, track every single expense. Every one. No matter how small. Write it down. Use an app. Create a spreadsheet. Use a notebook. Whatever works for you. Just pay attention. Because I guarantee you'll learn something about yourself. You might discover spending habits you never noticed. You might find opportunities to save money without sacrificing your quality of life. You might realize that some expenses bring genuine happiness, while others are simply mindless routines. Awareness changes everything. And remember this. The goal isn't to become obsessed with money. The goal is to use money as a tool to build a better life. Nothing more. Nothing less. Money should be your servant, not your master. And budgeting is one of the first steps toward making that happen. But budgeting alone isn't enough. Because even if you know where your money is going, another challenge remains. A challenge that prevents millions of people from building wealth. It's called lifestyle inflation. And in the next part of this video, we're going to talk about why learning to live below your means might be the single most important financial skill you'll ever develop. Trust me, this lesson can completely transform your future. But before we continue, if you're getting value from this conversation, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here, we're building a community of people who believe that financial freedom isn't about luck. It's about knowledge, discipline, and consistent action. Tip 2. Learn to live below your means. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to earn a lot of money, yet they're always broke? And at the same time, there are people with ordinary incomes who somehow manage to build savings, buy investments, and live with peace of mind. For a long time, that confused me. Because common sense tells us that the person who earns more should automatically have a better financial life. But life doesn't always work that way. And the reason is simple. Making money and keeping money are two completely different skills. One is about earning. The other is about discipline. One is about opportunity. The other is about wisdom. And if there's one financial principle that has created more millionaires than almost any investment strategy, it's this. Learn to live below your means. Now, I know that's not the most exciting advice in the world. It doesn't sound glamorous. It doesn't promise overnight wealth. It doesn't come with flashy cars or social media motivation. But sometimes, the most powerful truths are the simplest ones. And this one has the power to completely transform your life. The story of two friends. Let me tell you a story. Two friends graduated from university together. Let's call them David and Michael. Both got jobs in the same city. David landed a higher paying position. Michael earned considerably less. Everyone assumed David would become financially successful much faster. After all, he made more money. But life had other plans. David immediately upgraded his lifestyle. He rented an expensive apartment because, in his words, he deserved it. He bought the latest gadgets. Started eating out regularly. got a car that stretched his finances. And every time his salary increased, his spending increased right alongside it. Michael took a different path. He lived in a modest apartment. Used public transportation for several years. Cooked most of his meals. Saved consistently. Invested small amounts. Nothing dramatic. Nothing flashy. Fast forward 10 years. David was still living paycheck to paycheck. He earned more money than ever before, but he also carried more financial stress than ever before. Michael, on the other hand, had built savings, investments, and options. He wasn't rich in the traditional sense. But he had something even more valuable. Freedom. The freedom to walk away from a toxic job. The freedom to handle emergencies without panic. The freedom to make decisions based on what he wanted, not what his bank account demanded. And that's what living below your means really gives you. Options. The dangerous game of appearance. The world constantly pressures us to look successful. Social media has amplified this pressure. Every day, we're exposed to luxury lifestyles. Designer clothes. Exotic vacations. Luxury cars. Expensive restaurants. And without realizing it, we begin comparing our ordinary lives to everyone's highlight reels. We feel like we're falling behind. We feel like we need to keep up. And that's where many financial problems begin. Because trying to impress people is one of the most expensive habits anyone can develop. Think about it. How many purchases have we made simply because we wanted validation? How many things have we bought not because we truly needed them, but because we wanted to fit in? The truth is, many people are financing lifestyles they cannot afford to impress people who aren't paying their bills. And that's a dangerous game. Because appearances can be deceiving. The person driving the newest car might be drowning in debt. The person posting luxury vacations might have zero savings. The person wearing expensive clothes might be one emergency away from financial disaster. Never confuse looking wealthy with being wealthy. Real wealth is often quiet. It's the emergency fund nobody sees. The investments nobody talks about. The discipline nobody applauds. The sacrifices that happen behind closed doors.
Before we continue, let me ask you one question. If you're serious about building wealth, mastering financial intelligence, and creating multiple streams of income, then make sure you subscribe to the Affluence Arena. Every week, I share practical strategies that can help you grow financially and think like an entrepreneur. And if you're getting value from this video, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing, and it helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their financial future. Now, let's get back to the video.
And that's an important lesson to remember. What does living below your means actually mean? Now, some people misunderstand this concept. Living below your means doesn't mean living a miserable life. It doesn't mean never enjoying your money. It doesn't mean denying yourself every pleasure. That's not the goal. The goal is intentional living. It's about creating a gap between what you earn and what you spend. Because that gap is where your future lives. That gap becomes your savings. Your investments. Your emergency fund. Your opportunities. Your freedom. No matter how small the gap starts, it matters. In fact, let's think about it this way. Imagine two people. One earns $1 million a year but spends $1,050,000. The other earns $50,000 a year but spends $40,000. Who's wealthier? The second person. Because wealth isn't determined by income alone. It's determined by the difference between what comes in and what goes out. And that's a lesson many people learn far too late. Delaying gratification. One of the greatest skills you can develop is the ability to delay gratification. To say no today so you can say yes to something greater tomorrow. And I know that's difficult. We live in a world of instant everything. Instant food. Instant entertainment. Instant shopping. Instant credit. Companies spend billions of dollars studying human psychology. They know how to trigger impulsive spending. They know how to make you feel like you need something immediately. Limited time offers. Flash sales. One-click purchases. Buy now, pay later. Everything is designed to remove friction between desire and action. But successful people understand something important. Not every desire deserves an immediate response. Sometimes, the most powerful financial decision you can make is simply waiting. Waiting 24 hours before making a purchase. Waiting a week before buying something expensive. Giving yourself time to ask, do I really need this? Will this genuinely improve my life? Or am I buying this because of emotion? Those questions can save you thousands of dollars over your lifetime. A lesson from my grandmother. I once heard a story about an old man who lived a remarkably peaceful life. People often wondered how he managed money so well. He wasn't a millionaire. He wasn't famous. But he never seemed worried about finances. One day, someone asked him for his secret. And his answer was simple. He said, I learned to want less than I could afford. Think about that. Not less than he needed. Less than he could afford. That's wisdom. Because contentment is one of the greatest financial assets anyone can possess. If your happiness always depends on having more, you'll spend your entire life chasing satisfaction that never lasts. There will always be a newer phone. A bigger house. A better car. A more luxurious lifestyle. The race never ends. But when you learn gratitude and contentment, something incredible happens. You stop being controlled by consumer culture. You begin making decisions based on your values instead of social expectations. And that changes everything. The power of a simple life. Some of the happiest people I've met live surprisingly simple lives. They prioritize relationships over possessions. Experiences over status symbols. Freedom over appearances. They understand that money is a tool, not an identity. And that's an important distinction. Because your worth as a person isn't determined by what you own. Your character isn't measured by your possessions. Your value doesn't increase because you bought expensive things. Those truths matter. Especially in a world that constantly tells us otherwise. Living below your means isn't about deprivation. It's about alignment. Making sure your spending reflects what truly matters to you. And when you do that, money stops being a source of stress and becomes a source of opportunity. Let's see practical steps to start today. So, how do we actually begin? First, avoid lifestyle inflation. When your income increases, resist the temptation to immediately increase your expenses. Instead, direct a portion of that increase toward savings and investments. Second, practice intentional spending. Before making purchases, ask yourself whether they align with your long-term goals. Third, distinguish between wants and needs. Not because wants are bad, but because clarity creates better decisions. Fourth, celebrate progress, not appearances. Focus on building financial security rather than projecting financial success. And finally, remember that wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. Small, consistent actions matter far more than dramatic changes that don't last. A message to the viewer. If nobody has told you this recently, let me say it. You do not need to prove your success to anyone. You do not need to compete with strangers on the internet. You do not need to buy things you cannot afford to impress people who barely think about your life. Your financial journey is your own. Move at your own pace. Build at your own pace. Grow at your own pace. Because true wealth isn't about looking rich. It's about living with peace. It's about sleeping well at night. It's about knowing that an unexpected challenge won't destroy everything you've worked for. That's real success. And learning to live below your means is one of the most powerful steps toward achieving it. But even after you've mastered budgeting and disciplined spending, there's another challenge many people face. Saving money consistently. Because let's be honest. Human beings aren't always great at self-control. We have good intentions. We promise ourselves we'll save next month. We tell ourselves we'll put money aside after one more purchase. And somehow, life gets in the way. That's why the next principle is so powerful. It removes emotion from the equation entirely. And it might be one of the simplest habits that can completely transform your financial future. Automating your savings. Let's talk about that next. Tip 3. Automate your savings and pay your future self first. Let me tell you something that took me a long time to understand. Most people don't fail to save money because they're lazy. They fail because they're human. And being human means we're emotional. We're optimistic. We believe that next month will be different. We tell ourselves that after this one expense, after this one celebration, after this one emergency, we'll finally start saving seriously. But life has a funny way of always giving us another reason to postpone the things that matter most. There's always another bill. Another family obligation. Another tempting purchase. Another excuse that sounds completely reasonable in the moment. And before we know it, years have passed. The intention was there. The desire was there. But the habit was never built. And that's why one of the smartest financial moves you can ever make is to remove yourself from the decision-making process altogether. Automate your savings. Make saving money the default setting in your life instead of something that depends on motivation. Because motivation comes and goes. Systems remain. The lesson I learned from a farmer. I once listened to an elderly farmer talk about planting crops. He said something that stuck with me. He said, "If I wait until I feel like planting, I might never plant anything. The season doesn't wait for my feelings." What wisdom! And the same principle applies to money. Your future doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't wait until life becomes easier. It doesn't wait until every problem disappears. The seeds you fail to plant today are the harvest you'll miss tomorrow. Saving money is planting seeds. Small actions that may not look impressive right now, but over time, they grow into something meaningful. And the earlier you plant them, the better. Pay yourself first. There's an old financial principle that wealthy people have practiced for generations. Pay yourself first. Most people do the exact opposite. They pay rent first. They pay subscriptions first. They pay bills first. They spend on entertainment first. And whatever is left, if anything is left, goes into savings. But here's the problem. For most people, nothing is ever left. Because human beings naturally adjust their spending to whatever money is available. If your entire paycheck sits in your account, your mind unconsciously treats all of it as spendable. That's just how we're wired. But imagine if, the moment your salary arrives, 10% automatically moves into a savings account. You never touch it. You never negotiate with yourself. You never wonder whether you should save this month. The decision has already been made. Now you're forced to live on the remaining 90%. And guess what? Most people adapt surprisingly well. Because we tend to live according to the resources we perceive as available. That's why automation works. It removes temptation. It removes procrastination. It removes emotional decision-making. And those three things alone can completely change your financial future. The power of small beginnings. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that saving only matters if the amount is large. They think, "I'll start saving when I earn more money. I'll begin investing after I get promoted." Right now, the amount is too small to make any difference. But that's simply not true. The habit matters more than the amount. Let me say that again. The habit matters more than the amount. Because if you cannot save a small amount consistently, having more money won't magically solve the problem. You'll simply spend more. Discipline grows through practice. Not through income increases. I know someone who started by saving the equivalent of a few dollars every week. It seemed insignificant. Friends laughed. People told him it wasn't worth the effort. But he ignored them. Week after week. Month after month. Year after year. That small habit grew. His income increased. His savings increased. His investments increased. And eventually, the habit that looked foolish to others became one of the foundations of his financial freedom. Never underestimate the power of starting small. Big things often begin in humble ways. The magic of compounding. Albert Einstein is often credited with calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not, the principle itself is undeniably powerful. Compounding means your money earns money, and then that money earns more money. Growth builds upon growth. Momentum creates even more momentum. And time becomes your greatest ally. Think about planting a tree. The first few years don't look impressive. Growth seems slow. You wonder whether anything meaningful is happening. But beneath the surface, roots are developing. Strength is being built. The foundation is expanding. And eventually, growth accelerates. Financial habits work the same way. The beginning often feels boring, unremarkable, even frustrating. But consistency changes everything. The person who saves a little every month for 20 years often ends up in a far stronger position than the person who waits for the perfect moment to start. Time rewards action. It punishes procrastination. That's a lesson worth remembering. Building an emergency fund. Now, before we even talk about investing, let's discuss something equally important. Your emergency fund. Because life happens. Cars break down. People lose jobs. Medical emergencies occur. Unexpected responsibilities appear out of nowhere. And when those moments arrive, your emergency fund becomes your financial shock absorber. Without one, every crisis becomes a catastrophe. With one, problems remain problems, they don't become disasters. A good starting goal is to build 3 to 6 months' worth of essential living expenses. That may sound overwhelming. And that's okay. Remember, nobody builds these things overnight. You build them one step at a time. One deposit at a time. One disciplined month at a time. Progress is still progress, no matter how slow it feels. The emotional benefits of saving. People often focus only on the financial benefits of saving money. But honestly, the emotional benefits might be even more valuable. Savings create peace of mind. They reduce anxiety. They provide confidence. They give you breathing room. And breathing room changes everything. Imagine knowing that an unexpected expense won't immediately destroy your finances. Imagine being able to help family members without putting yourself into crisis. Imagine having enough security to pursue opportunities that genuinely excite you. That's what savings buy. Not just money. Options. Freedom. Peace. And those things are priceless. A conversation with your future self. Sometimes, I think about the relationship we have with our future selves. It's interesting, isn't it? We work hard today because we hope tomorrow will be better. We make sacrifices because we believe the future version of ourselves deserves a good life. But many of our financial decisions suggest the opposite. We prioritize present comfort at the expense of future stability. We borrow from tomorrow to satisfy today. We ignore the needs of the person we're eventually going to become. Yet one day, that future person arrives. And they either thank us or suffer because of the choices we made. So here's a question for you. If your future self could sit across from you right now, what would they ask you to do? Would they ask you to spend more impulsively? Or would they beg you to start building financial security? Would they thank you for another unnecessary purchase? Or would they appreciate the discipline that gave them freedom years later?
Before we continue, let me ask you one question. If you're serious about building wealth, mastering financial intelligence, and creating multiple streams of income, then make sure you subscribe to the Affluence Arena. Every week, I share practical strategies that can help you grow financially and think like an entrepreneur. And if you're getting value from this video, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing, and it helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their financial future. Now, let's get back to the video.
Sometimes, the greatest act of self-love is taking care of a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. Saving money is exactly that. It's an act of kindness toward your future. A simple challenge. So here's your challenge. Before this week ends, set up an automatic transfer. It doesn't have to be huge. 5%. 10%. Whatever is realistic for your current situation. The amount matters less than the consistency. Create a system that works even on days when motivation disappears. Because systems beat willpower every single time. And remember this. Financial success isn't built through grand gestures. It's built through ordinary habits practiced extraordinarily well. The small things you do consistently will always matter more than the big things you do occasionally. Now, once you've learned how to budget, live below your means, and save automatically, another important question emerges. What should you do with yourself? Because money isn't the only investment that compounds over time. Your knowledge compounds. Your skills compound. Your health compounds. Your relationships compound. And perhaps the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in stocks or real estate. It's in the person you see in the mirror every morning. Let's talk about that next. Tip 4. Invest in yourself, because you are your greatest asset. Let me ask you something. If someone offered you an investment that could increase your income, improve your confidence, expand your opportunities, strengthen your relationships, and continue paying dividends for the rest of your life, would you take it? Most of us would say yes without hesitation. But here's the interesting part. That investment already exists. And it's you. Your mind. Your skills. Your health. Your character. Your ability to learn, adapt, and grow. Those are assets that no economic crisis can completely take away from you. And yet, many people spend more time researching a new smartphone than they spend investing in their own development. They'll upgrade their gadgets every year but refuse to upgrade their knowledge. They'll spend money on things that lose value while ignoring the one investment that becomes more valuable over time. Themselves. And that's a mistake that can cost a lifetime of opportunities. The story of a young mechanic. Years ago, there was a young mechanic who worked in a small workshop. He was hardworking, honest, dedicated. But he noticed something interesting. The mechanics who earned the most weren't necessarily the ones who worked the longest hours. They were the ones who understood newer technologies. They learned modern diagnostic systems. They attended training sessions. They adapted as the industry changed. While others complained about change, they embraced it. So he made a decision. Every month, he would set aside a small amount of money to learn. He bought books, paid for courses, watched educational videos, asked questions, practiced new skills. People laughed at him. Some even told him he was wasting money. But he kept going. 5 years later, he wasn't just another mechanic. He had become a specialist. His income increased. His confidence increased. His opportunities multiplied. And the knowledge he gained continued paying him long after the courses were completed. That's the beauty of investing in yourself. The returns often last a lifetime. Knowledge changes the way you see the world. One thing I've learned is that education isn't only about formal degrees. Education is learning, growing, expanding your perspective, understanding things you didn't understand yesterday. The world belongs to people who never stop learning. Because the world itself never stops changing. Industries evolve. Technology advances. Opportunities shift. And those who continue learning position themselves to benefit from those changes rather than fear them. Think about it. The skills that created success 20 years ago may not be enough today. And the skills that matter today may evolve tomorrow. That's why lifelong learning isn't optional anymore. It's essential. Whether it's financial literacy, communication skills, digital skills, leadership, sales, content creation, entrepreneurship, or public speaking, every new skill increases your value. And increased value often leads to increased opportunities. Read more than the average person. One habit that has transformed countless successful people is reading. Now, I know reading isn't fashionable in some circles. We live in an age of short videos and instant entertainment. Attention spans are shrinking. People want information faster than ever before. But books remain one of the greatest bargains in human history. Think about it. For the price of a meal, you can access decades of someone's experiences, mistakes, lessons, and wisdom. That's incredible. You can learn from people you'll never meet. You can avoid mistakes you haven't made yet. You can borrow perspectives that take years to develop. Books compress time. They allow us to stand on the shoulders of people who came before us. And that gives us an enormous advantage. Even if you read just 10 pages a day, those small efforts compound. One book becomes 10. 10 books become 50. 50 books become a completely different way of thinking. The transformation isn't dramatic. It's gradual. But gradual changes often create extraordinary results. Your health is an investment, not an expense. Let's talk about something many people overlook. Your health. Because what's the point of financial freedom if you don't have the energy or health to enjoy it? Too often, people sacrifice their bodies in pursuit of money. They neglect sleep, ignore exercise, eat poorly, live under constant stress. And eventually, the body presents the bill. The truth is, your health affects everything. Your productivity, your mood, your creativity, your ability to work, your relationships, your quality of life. Investing in your health isn't selfish. It's practical. Simple habits matter. Walking regularly, getting enough sleep, eating nutritious foods when possible, managing stress, drinking water. These things may seem ordinary, but their long-term effects are extraordinary. Your body is the vehicle carrying you through life. Take care of it. Because no amount of money can fully replace good health. Build skills that nobody can take away. One of the most beautiful things about skills is that they stay with you. A job can disappear. A company can close. An industry can change. But valuable skills remain. If you know how to communicate effectively, that skill follows you everywhere. If you know how to sell, lead, solve problems, create content, negotiate, or build relationships, those abilities continue opening doors throughout your life. And that's why investing in skills is one of the smartest financial decisions anyone can make. Because skills create income. Income creates opportunities. Opportunities create freedom. The chain begins with learning. Learn from people who have gone ahead of you. One shortcut in life is finding mentors. People who have already walked the path you're trying to travel. People who have made mistakes so you don't have to repeat them. People who can offer wisdom that books alone cannot provide. Now, mentorship doesn't always have to be formal. Sometimes your mentors are authors, podcasters, teachers, business leaders, creators online. The important thing is to learn from people whose lives reflect the values and outcomes you admire. Because proximity to wisdom often changes the direction of our lives. And humility is essential here. The willingness to admit that we don't know everything. The courage to ask questions. The openness to grow. Those qualities matter more than many people realize. The most important investment of all. At the end of the day, money comes and goes. Markets rise and fall. Jobs change. Industries evolve. But the person you become remains with you through every season of life. That's why investing in yourself is never wasted. It strengthens the foundation upon which everything else is built. The more capable you become, the more opportunities you'll recognize. The more disciplined you become, the better decisions you'll make. The more knowledgeable you become, the harder it becomes for circumstances to keep you trapped. Growth changes possibilities. And that's something nobody can take away from you. A challenge for this week. So here's a simple challenge. Invest in yourself this week. Buy a book. Take an online course. Learn a new skill. Listen to an educational podcast. Read about an industry that interests you. Do something that your future self will thank you for. Remember, the best investment you'll ever make is the one that increases your ability to create value in the world. Because when you become more valuable, opportunities naturally begin to find you. And while investing in yourself can dramatically improve your life, there's one thing that can quietly destroy years of progress if you're not careful. Debt. Particularly high-interest debt. The kind that keeps people working harder while moving nowhere. The kind that steals peace, options, and freedom. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Because our fifth and final principle may be one of the most important financial lessons you'll ever learn. Avoid debt like the plague.
Before we continue, let me ask you one question. If you're serious about building wealth, mastering financial intelligence, and creating multiple streams of income, then make sure you subscribe to the Affluence Arena. Every week, I share practical strategies that can help you grow financially and think like an entrepreneur. And if you're getting value from this video, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. and it helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their financial future. Now, let's get back to the video.
Tip 5. Avoid debt like the plague. Now, before we talk about debt, I want to be very clear about something. Not all debt is evil. There is a difference between debt that helps you build assets and debt that quietly destroys your future. Borrowing money to build a profitable business, acquire valuable education, or purchase an asset that appreciates over time is very different from accumulating high-interest consumer debt to maintain a lifestyle you cannot afford. The problem is that many people never learn the difference. And because of that, they spend years, sometimes decades, working not for themselves, but for the money they borrowed in the past. Let me tell you a story. The man who owned everything, except his life. There was a man in his late 30s. From the outside, he looked successful. He had a nice car, a beautiful house, the latest gadgets, designer clothes. People admired him. Some even envied him. But nobody knew what happened behind closed doors. Every month, he spent most of his income paying debts. Car loans, credit card bills, personal loans, buy now pay later purchases. He couldn't sleep peacefully. He couldn't take risks. He couldn't leave his stressful job because too many people needed to be paid. One day, a friend asked him a simple question. Do you own your possessions, or do your possessions own you? The question hit him hard. Because the truth was painful. Everything he had worked so hard to acquire had also taken away his freedom. And that's the danger of debt. Sometimes, what appears to be wealth is actually financial bondage wearing expensive clothes. Debt steals your future. Think about what debt really is. Debt is tomorrow's money being spent today. It's borrowing from your future self. And while that might seem harmless in the moment, the cost often becomes much greater than we realize. Every payment you make on high-interest debt is money that could have gone into savings, into investments, into your children's education, his freedom. And that's the danger of debt. Sometimes, what appears to be wealth is actually financial bondage wearing expensive clothes. Debt steals your future. Think about what debt really is. Debt is tomorrow's money being spent today. It's borrowing from your future self. And while that might seem harmless in the moment, the cost often becomes much greater than we realize. Every payment you make on high-interest debt is money that could have gone into savings, into investments, into your children's education, into building a business, into creating opportunities. Debt doesn't just take your money. It takes your options. And options are incredibly valuable. Because freedom is the ability to make choices without financial desperation controlling your decisions. The trap of instant gratification. We live in a culture that encourages immediate satisfaction. Everything is available right now. Want a new phone? Get it today and pay later. Want expensive furniture? No problem. Easy installments. Want luxury items? Credit is waiting. The system is designed to make spending painless and borrowing feel normal. But there's a hidden cost. The excitement of buying something new is temporary. The debt often lasts much longer. What feels like freedom in the moment can become a burden for years. And the saddest part is that many people are paying for things they no longer even enjoy. The excitement disappeared months ago. The payments remained. That's a powerful lesson. Temporary pleasure should never create permanent financial stress. The emotional weight of debt. People often focus only on the financial side of debt. But debt also carries an emotional cost. It creates anxiety. It creates pressure. It creates fear. It affects relationships. It impacts mental health. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that a large portion of your paycheck already belongs to someone else. Imagine feeling trapped in a job you dislike because leaving isn't financially possible.
Before we continue, let me ask you one question. If you're serious about building wealth, mastering financial intelligence, and creating multiple streams of income, then make sure you subscribe to the Affluence Arena. Every week, I share practical strategies that can help you grow financially and think like an entrepreneur. And if you're getting value from this video, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. and it helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their financial future. Now, let's get back to the video.
Imagine constantly worrying about unexpected expenses because your financial margin has disappeared. That's not the life most people dream about. Money should create opportunities, not prisons. And while debt may sometimes be necessary, it should always be approached with caution and wisdom. Learning the difference between good debt and bad debt. Now, let's be practical. Good debt generally helps you acquire something that increases in value or generates future income. Bad debt usually finances consumption. Things that lose value while the interest keeps growing. For example, buying an expensive luxury item you can't afford using high-interest credit. That's dangerous. Accumulating credit card balances for lifestyle purchases. That's dangerous. Constantly borrowing to maintain appearances. That's dangerous. The key question to ask yourself is simple. Will this debt improve my financial future, or will it make my future more difficult? That one question can save you years of regret. The power of living debt-free. There is something deeply peaceful about owning your life. About knowing that your income belongs primarily to you and your family. About making decisions without creditors influencing every choice. Debt-free living isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about reducing unnecessary obligations. It's about building a life where financial stress doesn't dominate your thoughts. And perhaps most importantly, it's about reclaiming freedom. Because freedom isn't just having money. Freedom is having options. The option to say no. The option to pursue opportunities. The option to rest. The option to help others. The option to live according to your values instead of your obligations. And that's priceless. A simple strategy to escape debt. If you're currently dealing with debt, I want you to know something. This isn't a message of condemnation. It's a message of hope. Many successful people have faced debt. Many have struggled. Many have made mistakes.
What matters is what happens next. The first step is honesty. Know exactly how much you owe. The second step is creating a plan. Focus on paying off high-interest debt as quickly as possible. Some people prefer the snowball method, paying off smaller debts first to build momentum. Others prefer the avalanche method, focusing on the highest interest rates first. Whichever approach you choose, consistency matters more than perfection. Progress is still progress. And every payment moves you closer to freedom. The bigger picture. At the end of the day, personal finance isn't really about money. It's about life. It's about creating a future where you have choices. Where emergencies don't destroy your peace. Where your dreams aren't limited by financial chaos. Where you can focus on what truly matters. And that's why avoiding unnecessary debt is so important. Because debt often mortgages tomorrow for the comfort of today. And tomorrow deserves better. The bigger picture, what financial freedom really means. Now that we've talked about these 5 principles, I want to zoom out for a moment. Because financial freedom means different things to different people. For some people, it means retiring early. For others, it means providing a better life for their family. For someone else, it simply means sleeping peacefully at night without worrying about bills. And all of those definitions are valid. Because financial freedom isn't necessarily about becoming incredibly rich. It's about gaining control over your life. It's about ensuring that money becomes a tool rather than a master. Let's quickly remember the 5 lessons we've discussed today. First, create a budget. Give every dollar a purpose. Tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Second, live below your means. Because the gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth is created. Third, automate your savings. Take emotion out of the process and make your future a priority. Fourth, invest in yourself. Your skills, your health, your knowledge, and your character are assets that continue appreciating throughout your lifetime. And fifth, avoid unnecessary debt. Protect your freedom. Protect your peace. Protect your future. Simple ideas. But life-changing ideas. The compound effect of small decisions. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year. And they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. That's true financially. The small habits matter. The daily choices matter. The consistent actions matter. A few dollars saved today. A book read this month. A skill learned this year. A debt paid off gradually. These things compound. And eventually, the life you once dreamed about becomes your reality. Not because of luck. Not because of magic. But because of discipline and patience. A message to anyone who feels behind. Maybe you're watching this and thinking, I've made too many mistakes. I should have started years ago. Everyone else seems ahead of me. If that's you, listen carefully. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. You cannot change the past. You cannot undo previous decisions. But you can absolutely change the direction of your future. Starting late is infinitely better than never starting at all. And remember this. Personal finance is personal. Your journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Move at your own pace. Celebrate your own progress. Focus on becoming a little better every single day. Because small improvements, repeated consistently, eventually create extraordinary lives. My friends, financial freedom isn't built in a single day. It's built one decision at a time. One habit at a time. One sacrifice at a time. One lesson at a time. And while the journey may be long, every step forward matters. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. So, as you leave this video, I want to challenge you to do one thing. Just one thing.
Before we continue, if this message is inspiring you, take a moment to subscribe to the Affluence Arena. This channel is built for entrepreneurs, future leaders, disciplined thinkers, and people who refuse to settle for average. Here, we do not just talk about motivation. We talk about mindset, discipline, business growth, leadership, success principles, and the mentality required to build real affluence in life. So if you're serious about growth, subscribe to the Affluence Arena right now. And let us continue.
Pick one principle from today's conversation and implement it this week. Create a budget. Set up automatic savings. Read a book. Pay extra toward a debt. Learn a new skill. Take one action. Because knowledge without action changes nothing. But small actions, performed consistently, can transform an entire lifetime. And years from now, you might look back on this moment and realize that the decision to take your finances seriously was one of the most important decisions you ever made. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation helped you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community of people who believe that success isn't about shortcuts. It's about wisdom, discipline, growth, and helping each other become better every day. And remember, money is a tool. Use it wisely. Invest in yourself. Protect your peace. Build your future. And never stop growing. I'll see you in the next video.
Let me ask you one question. If you're serious about building wealth, mastering financial intelligence, and creating multiple streams of income, then make sure you subscribe to the Affluence Arena. Every week, I share practical strategies that can help you grow financially and think like an entrepreneur. And if you're getting value from this video, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing, and it helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their financial future.